What is perfectly legal, but creepy as hell? I swear to God, I did a lot of work in hospitals for a while. Big fucking hospitals with tons of bathrooms all over the place. For some goddamn reason, regardless of what time or bathroom I selected to take a shit, and not 30 seconds after I sat down a janitor would knock on the door to clean the bathroom. It's not as if it was one janitor. Just some random janitor would inevitably need to clean whatever bathroom I was in as soon as I got comfy. It's like I was being stalked by the janitors. So now I'm trying to take a shit knowing full well there's somebody out there actively timing how long it takes. When I was a child, we had a creepy, horrible neighbor that would harass my family constantly. One of the things he did was stand at the corner of his yard and videotape me playing in a pool with my friends. We were around 8. My parents called the police but were told that it's legal if he's on his property. This was in the US and 20 plus years ago, so laws might be different by now. I had a neighbor like this growing up. He never creeper on me or my brothers, but one time my dad saw him up on his roof, looking into the bathroom window of the house next door, presumably watching the 16-year-old girl in there. My dad put a huge blue tarp up against our shared fence, like 10 feet tall, and told the entire neighborhood why. The guy complained but couldn't do anything and eventually moved. I'm not a lawyer at all, but that seems crazy. You can be filmed in public because you don't have an expectation of privacy. Basically, if you're out and about, anyone can see you, so anyone can record you. But I'd think you have a pretty damn reasonable expectation of privacy swimming in your backyard. Of course, we probably live in different countries, so the laws are likely different. Even more likely is that I don't really understand the laws in my own country. I work in commercial construction and we build a lot of schools. When we complete a project, part of my job is to take drone photos of the completed building. Typically by the time I get around to taking these drone photos, school has already started. So on several occasions, I look like I'm just some random guy standing out in the parking lot, taking drone photos of an elementary school during a normal school day. It's not a great look. I've encountered the cops a couple of times, but they've always been pretty cool about it. I've worked in construction and built some Walmart shopping centers and distribution centers. Had a site manager on a job tell me that Walmart used to have a super specific level of shine they wanted on their floors when they were finished and opened up for public shopping. However, with the ever-increasing presence of cell phones and better cameras, they had to begin to dull the floors because people were able to just grab upskirts by taking pics of the floor under people. I get up and move. I actually work for my city's transportation, and I've seen people get robbed and all sorts, so I'm extra cautious. Completely empty train car, and this guy just sits down right next to me. I just looked at him, grabbed my shit, and moved to the next car. Rubbing elbows with somebody else at the urinal trough when the bathroom is busy. Legal and sometimes a necessity at a ball game when you have a bunch of beers. Rubbing elbows with somebody else at the urinal trough when you are the only two at the urinal trough. Legal but should be criminal. It's technically legal to check if a door is locked, as long as you don't enter without permission. Depending on where you live, this could apply to both houses and cars. Edit. You won't find any laws permitting this activity, but laws associated with it are generally based on circumstantial evidence or rely on proving the suspect's intent. An arrest may be likely, but proving intent is difficult, and charges might not stick. Results may vary inter-precinct. I live in a pretty low-crime neighborhood and hooligans still walk up and down the street checking all the car doors pretty regularly. The local PD puts out PSAs about this constantly, which have been getting increasingly frustrated in tone as the months go by. I half expect the next one to straight up say, if you leave your car unlocked and someone lifts your shit, we can do fuck all about it. Yes. Yeah. I know theft is a crime. Please stop telling me. This is why Little Miss Sunshine is so perfect. These beauty pageants sexualize their kids in such a winking way that they have plausible deniability. No, I'm not trying to make my child sexy. I'm just making them look older, You are the one sexualizing them by criticizing it, so they walk around poised and waving and dressed up like they're grown. And then Olive gets up on stage looking very much like a little girl, no makeup, her outfit looks like a one-piece swimsuit. But then she performs the sexual part of the pageants with her dance routine set to a very sexual song. She looks absolutely ridiculous, quite plainly a little girl doing a dance she doesn't understand, and it draws into relief exactly how ridiculous child pageants are. This one hits close to home. A good friend of mine lives in a major East Coast city. As a single woman, she is extra cautious. She was the victim of a known local Instagram celebrity this weekend. Basically, this guy follows people, guys and girls, around and records them. When they get annoyed and tell him to stop, he gets more and more obnoxious, trying to get reaction. He is careful not to cross the legal line for stalking etc. and does it in public. So be expectation of privacy. He then posts the inevitable freakout online. I'm not going to share the page. My friend made the cut, because I don't want to grace this troll with the page views. Sifting through someone else's garbage bins. Cops and collection agencies do it all the time to gather evidence. It's perfectly legal, as the bins are on the street, which is public. You can even turn it around and do it to the cops. They'll still try and throw the book at you, of course, but it's legal and the courts have ruled as such. Update: this got popular, so it's time. Please check your state's laws on this beforehand. They're all different, and some might supersede the SCOTUS ruling mentioned by /u/adam_the_gorilla. I can go put up a camera with a giant lens and set it up to take pictures every 30 seconds while pointed at a popular playground full of children, while I also fly a drone taking pictures of the same playground. The act of taking pictures in public is not illegal, even if the subject doesn't want their picture taken. It's how the photos are used that determines if permission is needed, and as long as I'm using it for my own weird, creepy personal reasons rather than trying to publish a book of them or put them in a movie, then it's not illegal. Of course, this only applies in Canada and the US. Other countries may have different privacy laws, and you do need the appropriate drone license, but I could still do it all day, every day. I've chatted with more than one friend or coworker who were furious and near paranoid about government tracking. When I pointed out Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Amazon, and nearly every other online corporation were tracking people with much funner details, they were nearly dismissive of that idea. But they're just doing it to make money and improve their bottom line. They are doing it for the same reason the government does, to track trends of public attitudes and perceptions in order to manipulate segments of the public. But if it is done by a political party someone is opposed to, bad. If done by some billionaire corporation in order to make even more money, good. I can't even. I've heard too many horror stories where people just kept getting stalked despite pursuing any legal action they could do, as it's already psychologically fucking terrifying, and then one day the stalker ends up harming, raping or murdering the person. I swear they should be locked up in a mental institution or carry some sort of brace to be tracked. Would save the lives of so many people. Uploading your kid's life onto Facebook for strangers to view before the kid even knows what the internet is. Edit: remember how when you first started using the internet, there was no trace of you. You didn't exist online. The power was in our hands to create our digital footprint. We could expose as much or as little as we want. And we still can. That classic scene where your parents take out the old baby pictures to embarrass you in front of your new partner literally won't be a thing anymore. Imagine logging online for the first time to find more pictures of you growing up than you've ever seen before, and realizing people you don't know have had access to them for years, commenting on them and liking them. Your parents' old friends that they haven't spoke to in 10 years and have never met you. Yeah, I used to be a nanny for one of those people. I called her an Instamommy. She's actually pretty popular. Her child was an accessory though. This child wasn't even 2 and probably had 1,000s on pictures on Instagram. Not just a typical baby picture either. Pictures of the kid breastfeeding, in a bath, getting her diaper changed, cuddling naked with her mommy. I work in childcare and even I found some of them weird. Pay was great, job was terrible. I loved the baby but it was brutal. You would think this mom was perfect if you followed her on Instagram. Reality, I was there 12 plus hours a day. If the baby pooped she was handed off to me. If she cried she was handed off to me. This ruined so many friendships and bonds for me when I was a kid. I had a friend who was a boy. Oh, your boyfriend is coming over today. Son of a family friend who is a few years older but makes an effort to include me and be decent to me. Oh, do you fancy him? ? Like she wouldn't joke about it once or twice, it would be never ending after any exchange. And in the end it mortified me so much that I'd get really awkward around whoever it was and just stop interacting with them because of it. It's not funny, it's just exhausting and ruins what could have been a sweet and innocent friendship with a kid. Thankfully it was one-sided. But my neighbor said that her daughter and I should date when we are older. She still continues to say how good we would be together and stuff and that I would be a good man for her. I told both my parents about it and thankfully they're not gonna do that forced marriage BS. I still don't get how my neighbors haven't gotten the message that I'm not interested in her daughter. This all happened after knowing them for like an hour. She just automatically decided that I was the perfect guy. A grown man giving expensive gifts to a teenage girl he's not related to or particularly close to. I came across this ask after reading a post where a woman said her husband gave their neighbor's daughter a $300 bracelet without discussing it with her and the vibes were super creepy. Technically not illegal but hella pedo vibes there. Edit, the price was $300 not $3,000 though still creepy. Anyone wanting to read the story, someone posted a link below. That classic scene from American movies where a group of high schoolers raise money by washing cars in bikinis, seems like a pervert magnet. Edit, this is just bringing me more questions. No one raised hell if a girl ended up being hair-raised. Were parents or maybe cops assigned to at least look after these minors? What did the press say? This seems like the perfect base for a moral panic. You can find your town's unpaid property tax registry fairly easy by looking on your town's website. To explain this very simply, you can cover other people's property taxes. This gives them two options: 1, they reimburse you for the money you fronted for their property taxes, or 2, the property reaches a deadline where if the property owner hasn't paid you back for the money you fronted, you become the legal owner of the property because you have paid the property taxes. You could essentially buy a property worth $30,000. Example, by only putting down a few $100,000 in property tax fees. You either make all your money back when the original property owner pays you for the money you fronted, or you put a few $100,000 down and get a property worth a lot more than your initial investment. Edit, I'd like to include this avoid confusion. I should have started with this portion. No, you cannot go pay the property tax of any building you'd like to own. You need to go through something called a tax deed sale. This is a legal process that properly transfers ownership. Typically tax deed sales are found on your local website. Not all states offer tax deed sales. Sorry for any confusion. Oh yeah, the properties will be shitholes but they'll be worth more than your initial investment even when sold under market value. If you have no morals you can turn this side hustle into a huge moneymaker. Once you have the property you sell it under market value to someone who's impoverished. In a few months you predictably pick up their property taxes, and repeat the cycle. I did this in my early 20s. Yeah, it's a very creepy job. You have to constantly survey them. The worst feeling in the world because you had to present evidence, and sometimes the people would have days when they felt well enough to do things that they wouldn't be otherwise. So some would present this as evidence. Of course they would lose their benefits. Sometimes it was a temporary loss and they would appeal, and sometimes it was permanent and they had to pay back a lot of money. They sneak around my yard trying to watch my neighbor all the time. She had sort of botched ear replacement surgeries over the years, can barely walk, and I've had to chase them away, and they keep coming back on our properties. All it took was "Why the F are you watching my kids play while sitting in the trees with a camera, you pedophile?" yelled from across the street to get him out of there. They were also watching a friend of mine, and we're across the road in my other friend's, I'll call him Bobby, backyard. Snuck through the woods behind his house, up through the snow to the back of his house, and was leaning around the corner trying to catch friend number one doing something he shouldn't be, which he literally can't. His back is junked. Bobby's wife seen footprints in the snow from the woods toward their back deck and freaked. Bobby ran out and chased the guy down thinking he was a creeper and got a few swings in at him before the guy took off. Messed up stuff lol. UK age of consent is 16. A couple girls from my school had BFs in their late 20s, 30s before they had finished year 11. Those girls became mothers very young so have basically missed out on their youth. The mental age gap is so vast I'd why anyone in their late 20s would want to be with a teenager. Creepy. If the age of consent is 16 I think that should only apply to other teens under 18 otherwise you get pedos preying on young teens. Adult men walking up to you and asking for a hug. I didn't know this was a thing until I moved to St. Louis from my small Indiana town. There was a guy that frequently went up to students, including me, at the high school I go to and middle school I went to. He actually got a hug a few times, mainly from an autistic girl. She's super kind but she doesn't know how to set boundaries, and each time he's been extremely touchy and the hug has been long. My school district wouldn't do anything about him until he literally put his hand down some poor girl's pants. Now he's not allowed to hang out around school property, and he has a restraining order for the girl he took advantage of. Pretty light punishment, in my opinion. This. 5,000% this. When my oldest was born, my ex, not ex at the time, had agreed not to have it done. Well, her and her sisters and father planned for it anyways. Her father paid for it and they did it while I was at work one day. Was I angry? Angry isn't the word. I'm intact and have no issues. Why the hell would I circumcise my just-born son? Like what the fuck? And guess who has problems now at 6 years old? Congratulations fucking idiots. Should have left him alone. Sorry the topic kind of triggers me. My youngest is 9 Mo, whom I had with my wife and this time, the agreement was kept not to have it done on him, and he's just fine. I'll never forgive my ex for that shit, among many other things she did to my son. But that's why I have sole custody of him now and my wife is adopting him. Those are tales for another day. But for real, fuck circumcision. What a damn money grab. Like $500 plus $100 cash for the doctor at the time of surgery. If that doesn't sound sketchy I don't know what does. Oh, and did I mention this is in Canada of all places? Question mark. Sexualized children clothing and gendered stuff. Young girl costumes containing form-fitting leggings, boy clothes saying my babysitter is hot or saying lock up your daughters, etc. Also gendered stuff feels creepy and weird like deodorant being lavender rose beauty soft women's deodorant and manly ocean wood chopper forest pine deodorant. It rubs me the wrong way because at the end of the day we want to smell good. Why gender the smell of pine trees or roses? That law enforcement officers routinely lie in the dogged pursuit of conviction. Pie in the sky ideals, but I think it should be explicitly illegal for any government official, in any public service role, to deceive anyone for any reason, outside the specific exceptions of 1, the military, intel officers in the context of war, or preventing war, and 2, a short-term circumstance where someone's life is literally in danger from a knife-wielding maniac, and you need to deceive the perp in real time in order to save a life. That's it. Don't fucking lie. Sitting in your yard while watching the bedroom window of your neighbor's underage daughter. A friend got a new neighbor, who was a single guy in his 50s. Every evening he positioned his lawn chair in his backyard to face the bedroom window of her 13-year-old daughter. He would just sit there, drinking beers, watching her daughter's window. She complained to the police, but was told that he was in his yard and not doing anything illegal, so they couldn't make him stop. So that, perfectly legal, but creepy as hell. The German party Der Drittweg, they are openly racist, anti-Semitic and strive for a social order as in the Third Reich. They have official candidates for the Bundestagswahl in this year in at least 2 states. Some of their election ads literally just said hang the Greens, the Greens being a fairly popular party with protecting the environment as their main goal, and the police didn't even take down all of them, with some towns arguing that Greens isn't specific enough to be a call for violence. The Verfassungsschutz, Constitution protection, similar to the FBI but in whack, rates them as being right extremists, but yet they aren't banned. I mean, they were literally co-founded by former and staff members. They probably won't make more than 0.1%, hopefully, but still.